this thing going around called sniffing. You think you're getting high, but the dizzy, fuzzy feeling is just what happens when your brain doesn't get oxygen. The chemicals get in the way. So it's like you're not breathing. That's how sniffing causes brain damage and death. So when you think you're sniffing, your brain thinks you're drowning. And your brain is pretty much right.
We now return to Kidbits.
Did you know that there's a great revolution sweeping over the world? And unless you join up today, you could be left behind. The movement is to the metric system. Everyone has heard about it by now. It's been around for almost 200 years. Have you converted yet? Can you think in metric? Well, if you haven't tried yet, you really should, because the whole reason behind the change is that metrics are easier to use. The metric system was created by a committee from the French Academy of Science in 1791. At that time, there was great disagreement as to how long a foot was or how heavy a pound was. Each king or ruler that came to power established their own set of standards for their country. At the end of the 18th century, there were 282 different measurements for a foot and 391 different weights for a pound. It's easy to see why someone had to step in and decide what the rules were going to be. Most measurements at that time were based on dimensions of the human body. A yard, originally called an L, was the distance from the center of your chest to the end of your fingers. Obviously, this measurement could vary a great deal from person to person. So the Academy Committee searched for some dimension that wouldn't change and would be the same in every country on Earth. The Earth. That's it. That's where they got their idea. The committee decided that the standard of measurement, or standard of distance, would be 1/10,000,000th of the distance from the equator to the North Pole, and that this standard would be called a meter. The standard of weight would be a gram, which is this little tiny one up here, which is the weight of 1 cubic centimeter of water. Volume would be the liter, a cube 10 centimeters by 10 centimeters. All nice tens, delightfully decimal. With this decree issued in 1795, the metric system was born. All that needed to be done was convince the rest of the world. Well, that took a while, but the reasons for converting are strong. Scientists needed uniform measurements worldwide so that they could communicate precisely with each other. The best part of the metric system is that it is easier and faster to work with mathematically. We'll test this theory when we solve a few metric problems after this message.
Everybody's got a favorite toy, but for every favorite toy, most kids have a box full of unfavorites. TV commercials make every toy look like fun, but you should watch carefully to make sure the toy that looks like fun on TV is going to be as much fun for you at home. Or Mom and Dad are going to wind up buying you more unfavorite toys.
Oh, but I love you.
Hey, remember, there's a smart way to watch TV.
The metric system's main advantage over the customary inch-pound measurements is that because it is decimally based, it's much easier to do the arithmetic. Our monetary system is decimally based, too. Are dug up from the earth. They are often locked into a rock. Now, this rock may look like any ordinary rock to you, but the geologist knows that there are secrets locked inside. Geologists have tests that tell them what kind of minerals a rock might contain. The first test is the hardness test. Each mineral has its own certain level of hardness. Anything equally as hard or harder will scratch that mineral. Anything softer will be scratched instead. Can you guess by looking which of these items right here will scratch the others? The pencil, chalk, pennies, a nail file, a glass bottle, a steel file, and a chunk of quartz. Well, you could test these items against each other, and you'd find out that they'd come out just like this here. The pencil lead is the softest, and the piece of quartz is the hardest, and the other ones are in between. Geologists have devised a 1 to 10 scale for the hardness of a mineral, called Mohs hardness scale. On their scale, talc is the softest at number 1, and a diamond is hardest at number 10. All the other minerals in the world are somewhere in between these two extremes. Another test for minerals is the acid test. This is used to identify carbonate rock, like limestone. Marble and chalk are all carbonate rocks. For an acid to test, you could use vinegar. If you drop a few drops of vinegar on a rock like this one here, or some little piece of crushed rock, and if it starts to fizz and bubble, that rock is a carbonate. Here are some other rocks that are carbonate as well. Marble is a carbonated rock. People can also make their own rocks, like the concrete used in road building. It starts as a powdery combination of limestone, clay, and gypsum called cement. Then when it's ready to be used, you mix in sand, pebbles, and water. These form the gray, heavy mixture that is poured into forms and left to dry. Hello. When is a bug not a bug? When it's a ladybug. Well, that's not a riddle, but a statement of fact about the classification of species in the animal kingdom. A ladybug doesn't belong to the family of bugs. It belongs to the beetle family, the most prevalent of all insects. Ladybugs, lightning bugs, and June bugs are all beetles, not bugs. Well, who decides which creatures are related to who? It's all done according to the characteristics that each species possesses. The study of the animal kingdom is called zoology. Walk into your backyard and begin to observe the workings of any creature that you find there. The first major difference is between the invertebrates, those without spinal columns or bones, and the vertebrates, those with a backbone and an internal skeleton. Look at these drawings right here and divide them quickly into invertebrates and vertebrates. These three right here have no bones. They are invertebrates. These three right here are vertebrates. In the larger realm of invertebrates, there are many sub-kingdoms and classes of creatures. Let's look at the major ones and talk about their characteristics. Earthworms are annelids. They have segmented bodies. Mollusks are soft-bodied sea creatures, usually with shells, like snails, clams, and their non-shell cousin, the octopus. Arthropods are a huge sub-kingdom of creatures with segmented bodies and jointed legs. There are more than 1 million species of arthropods. The major classes are the arachnids, with 8 legs and 2 segments to the body, like spiders. There are crustaceans, which are mostly found underwater and have a hard exoskeleton. Exoskeleton means skeleton on the outside. Examples are shrimp and lobsters. Their skeleton is on the outside. The word myriapod means a many-legged creature, as in a centipede. Insects are a very large class of living things. All insects have 3 pairs of legs, a 3-segmented body, and 1 or 2 sets of wings. The wings and the legs are all attached to the middle section of the body, called the thorax. Even though spiders and ants are both arthropods, creatures with segmented legs and bodies, they belong to different classes. They have different numbers of legs and different shaped bodies. A spider is an arachnid, and an ant is an insect. After this message, we'll be back to take a look at the vertebrates.
Hey, Albert, we'll be late for the party. What are you doing?
Cleaning my teeth.
Well, finish brushing and let's go.
I have finished brushing.
But what are you doing?
I'm flossing.
Flossing?
Yeah, cleaning between my teeth with some special string. The dentist showed me how.
What good does that do?
It gets into places your toothbrush can't reach.
So brushing and flossing are important, huh?
As you sit in your backyard zoo, you can quickly classify creatures as either vertebrates or invertebrates. Let's look more closely at the vertebrates. A major division among creatures with internal skeletons is whether they are warm-blooded or cold-blooded. Warm-blooded creatures produce body heat from within, like us. Cold-blooded creatures take their body temperature from their environment. The cold-blooded vertebrates are fish, reptiles, and amphibians. How do you distinguish between fish, reptiles, and amphibians? By looking for the special equipment of each class. Fish are entirely aquatic. They live underwater. They all have fins, scales, gills, and streamlined bodies. Amphibians have dual personalities. In their early stage, they live underwater and use gills to get their oxygen. And as they grow into adults, they develop lungs and become air breathers. Frogs and salamanders are examples of amphibians. Reptiles are cold-blooded and are usually covered with scales or horny plates. Turtles, snakes, and lizards are all reptiles. On the warm-blooded team for the vertebrates are birds and mammals. Birds all have feathers, lay eggs, and have wings, though not all birds can fly, examples being the penguin and the ostrich. Mammals have hair-covered bodies, give live birth to their young, and nurse their young. You could make a chart like this of the important characteristics displayed by all the different classes of living things. Then any creature that you were curious about, you could just look up on your chart. Let's think about a whale. Well, a whale is a vertebrate. It has live young and nurses their young. That makes it a mammal. How about the dinosaurs? They were vertebrate too. They are cold-blooded, covered with horny plates, no gills. They're not amphibian. They were reptiles, giant reptiles. Any living thing that you can think of, and some that you can't think of, will fall under one of these classifications. Watch out for the exceptions, though, like the duck-billed platypus. It's a mammal that lays eggs. Oh, well, exceptions to the rule are the fun of zoology. If you're sitting down right now, you probably think that you're sitting reasonably still. Sorry, but that's just not true. Because of the rotation of the Earth, you are turning a giant somersault every 24 hours at about 1,000 miles per hour. As the Earth orbits the Sun, you move with it at about 6,500 miles per hour. Our whole solar system is moving towards the star Vega at about 12 miles per second, or 43,200 miles per hour. But hold on to your chair, because our entire galaxy, the Milky Way, is rotating at 540,000 miles per hour. All this movement, and you thought you were sitting still. Outer space holds lots of surprises for those folks who stop and look up to see what's really going on. Have you ever seen a shooting star? Well, it isn't really a star, of course, but a meteorite entering our atmosphere and burning up as it falls to Earth. On any good, clear night, you should be able to see a meteorite or two. There are periods of increased meteorite activity called meteor showers, almost every month. During these meteor showers, you'll see quite a number of meteorites. The best time for viewing is between midnight and 4 a.m., and the best place is in the country, away from the city lights. Not all meteorites fall at night, and not many are large enough to be seen. Each year, the Earth receives about 4 million tons of space debris from the billions of micrometeorites that it runs into. Most of this dust is made up of metals iron and nickel, which are magnetic. If you would like to collect some genuine space dust, draw a magnet along the ground. About 20% of the magnetic particles that cling to it will be from outer space. A meteorite that makes it all the way to Earth is called a meteor. Around the world, about 1,500 boulder-sized meteors make it all the way to the surface each year. About 400 of these hit the land. Every 10,000 years or so, a meteor large enough to make a dent crashes down. In Arizona, there is a meteor crater 4,100 feet wide and 600 feet deep. Must have made quite a crash back in prehistoric times. I'll be back with more space facts after this message.
Join the fun, it's for everyone.
I thought my best friend was kidding when she said she belonged to a 4-H swimming club. Swimming in 4-H? Sure, she said. Swimming is just one of 150 different things you can do in 4-H. So I joined, and 4-H sure is neat. We meet new friends, learn new things, and have a lot of fun. Tell your best friend about it and join the fun. Call your County Cooperative Extension Service office for information.
4-H, there's something